ملګري ملتونه وایي چې په افغانستان کې د بشري ناورین وضعیت د ځمکې پر سر تر ټولو بد او وخیم وضعیت دی. دوی وایي چې د ژمي په رسېدو سره ښایي د افغانستان نیمایي خلک د لوږې له ګواښ سره مخ شي. دا چې په افغانستان کې ولې وضعیت دې حالت ته راورسېد او څومره بشري مرستو اړتیا ده، په اړه یې د ملګرو ملتونو بشري مرستو همغږي کوونکي ښاغلي رامز الکبروف سره ملګر لرو. سلام، زه نجیب لال زوی یم. Mr. Alkabrof, thank you so much for giving us your time. The first question, is Afghanistan really the world's biggest and worst humanitarian crisis or disaster?
Assalamu alaikum. It is a very difficult situation, and we do classify today and we do speak today of the situation in Afghanistan as a very difficult humanitarian crisis, and we are trying to respond to it to the best of our ability to help the people of Afghanistan. The situation is difficult.
Actually, what really went wrong in Afghanistan that now more than half of the population, as you estimated, is starving or on the brink of starvation?
Many things. First of all, I believe that for decades, Afghanistan was not able to develop its economy and specifically to develop its rural areas. There was a conflict, there was a war going on in the country. And on top of it, it looks like in the last 4 years, we're entering the third year of the drought. The country is very much dependent on agriculture. It is very much dependent on what the farmers can produce, and if there is no water, and if we are not managing water very well, that adds to it. Obviously now we have sanctions regime, we have economic issues, all of that combined together creates this situation.
Your statistics show that more than 24 million people are starving or they're poor. What is your definition of poverty in Afghanistan? Who really is a poor one?
Usually we define it as someone, international definition, as someone who is living on $1 or less a day. In Afghanistan, historically it has been defined, now of course exchange rate is a bit different, about 70 AFs per day. So it is considered if you don't have 70 AFs per day that you're already below the poverty line. That's how this is being estimated, and a large proportion of population, unfortunately, as you know, does not have the money.
Going to the last picture of this humanitarian crisis, Mr. Alakbarov, why should Afghans and the people of Afghanistan need cash always in order to address the humanitarian crisis situation, their family situation? Why should we not work? Why is there not much done?
I fully agree with you, and I think we need to do better in addressing the core of the problem. I mean, I've been working in Afghanistan for a year and a half now. I've seen the country, traveled the rural areas. I do believe there is a huge gap between the cities and the villages, and I do believe the level of development in the villages historically was very, very low. So we need to find ways how to help an ordinary farmer, how to help a poor person who is living in the rural areas to become more resilient. And I think that is the key to resolving the basic of the situation you're talking about. Moving forward, of course, we need to have more in the areas of health, in the areas of education, and fundamentally what we need to make sure is that every single person in Afghanistan has an access to a high quality education, including women and girls.
Thank you. There was presence of more than 30 countries in Afghanistan past 2 decades. Why and what did they not do specifically in order for the people of Afghanistan not to have faced such kind of situation now? Though the war has left us and now we are starving. What should have been done?
It is a very good question. In my point of view, the countries which came here and provided aid has done a lot of good for Afghanistan. Afghanistan has infrastructure, Afghanistan has roads, Afghanistan has schools, much more than it had 2 decades ago. Where we were, again, I'm coming back again and again to the same point. We need to make sure that countries' capacity is equal in all areas. And moving forward, we also need to see how we can create a sustainability and resilience at the level of the community, among the people. It starts with a simple community in the village. It starts with ability of that community to sustain itself. And I think that's where we need to make investments more.
Coming to the bigger question, Mr. Alakbarov, more than $9.5 billion of Afghanistan have been frozen now. There are talks in media and by the officials and by the authorities of the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. They need for the release of this money. Will the release of this money solve the problem?
I think, of course, bringing cash into the economy will improve the situation, but that's not the only issue we need to resolve. There's so many things which need to be resolved beyond that. First of all, the country needs to have healthy systems of managing the resources. It needs to have a very well-established processes when it comes to the salaries of the teachers or salaries of the doctors. It needs to have a lot more. So we seem to be focused on that issue a lot. It is an important issue, but that's not the only one we need to look at.
That's not the only one.
Of course.
So will the humanitarian aids of organizations like you, the foreign countries, be the second solution or the first or priority?
I want to be very frank with you. There is no microeconomic solution to macroeconomic problems. Humanitarian aid is not a solution. It is a band-aid. It is an immediate assistance to help the people most in need. What we need resolutions which are at the political level. There was a very famous humanitarian, Sadaka Agata, who had said, no humanitarian has ever resolved the humanitarian issue. It is created by politician and resolved by politician.
So it cannot help humanitarian, it's only an urgent humanitarian assistance, as you said, and the money you said is not the only solution. So at least it can help a bit.
Yes.
The $9.5 billion, too much money for the country. What should the Taliban specifically do to get these money unfrozen?
I think this is a political question, and I think this is a type of discussion which is taking place in Doha, where the current authorities are meeting with the member states and discussing them. All that is known and has been widely covered in media. From our point of view as humanitarians and as those who are delivering on the ground, what we continue to ask for is that we continue to have the full and unimpeded access to the entire territory of the country, and we have actually good access at this particular point in time. We need to have more done for the girls' education and women's participation in economic life, because women make a half of the population of the country, and it is an important element of the workforce. And we need to work closer on resolving those bottlenecks. At the moment, I can say only one thing, that we are very resolute in our determination to provide humanitarian assistance for the people of Afghanistan.
Thank you. The World Bank just announced that $280 million should be given to Afghanistan through WFP and UNICEF. Update us about these things. So how will you get the money in to Afghanistan?
We work with private banks, and we make sure that these bills are paid. For instance, we were able to pay the bills of the teacher's salary, of the health worker's salary for the last 2 months. For the Sahat Mandi program, we were able to cover those. It was not for education, it was for health sector. So for 2 months we were able to pay, and we visited the hospitals, and the doctors and nurses were paid. So we are able to deliver that assistance.
So about this money, where is now the process?
For the last 2 months we have covered.
No, exactly the $280 million.
Have not been allocated yet. We are still in the process of release of the money, but money has not been released yet.
So what will be the priorities of this money? To whom will be the money distributed?
We are looking currently at the health and food and sector, and we are looking at the issues of children. So this is for specifically address the needs of the malnourished children, the children who are having a very difficult situation with the health conditions, support health workers, and to provide food assistance and agricultural assistance.
So all these will be covered by $280 million.
Yes.
Fine. Tell me about your program, Mr. Alakbarov. What are you currently doing? What are you busy with in Afghanistan?
Since mid-August, we were able to reach more than 8 million people with the food assistance. And by the end of the year, we will be reaching 17 million people from the beginning of the year with the food. We also have provided several million people with the assistance in medical sector. We have delivered hundreds of metric tons of medication to provide hospitals with essential drugs. And this is a continuing program. We continue to provide support to the farmers. For instance, we are distributing an important element is distribution of seeds for the next season, and we also were able to support farmers who were able to put the seeds into the ground during the autumn. This is a type of assistance also for the winterization items, because the winter is already here. We've provided a lot of winterization items, meaning blankets, stoves to heat the houses, hygiene items, cooking supplies. Those type of programs continue.
بیرته راګرځو موږ سره پاتې شئ.
Not only you, but foreign countries pledged lots of money, and they did it, distributed lots of things, cash, the food ingredients, and lots of other things. Are you satisfied with the amount of help they have been doing in Afghanistan?
Afghanistan needs a lot of money. And because in the past investments in Afghanistan were very large. Out of $13 billion, which was the budget of the previous government, تقريبا يعني, I believe a huge proportion, maybe 2/3, they're coming from the foreign aid. So obviously, when you look at the structure of how the Afghanistan budget was organized, a large proportion came from overseas, from foreign countries. So at this point in time, the differences are still big. We were able to receive this year over $1 billion, I believe $1.5 billion from the beginning of the year were given for various aid sectors, for humanitarian aid sectors. Of course, it is not as much as it used to be before. Nevertheless, we are very grateful for those countries who are supporting, because this is a lifeline for many people.
You said $1.5 billion
From the beginning of the year, yes.
And how much do you need exactly to address this crisis, at least for the winter?
We appealed at the Geneva conference for about $600 million, and we have received it, this money. Now, moving forward, I don't want still to speculate about the numbers which we'll be announcing in January, but they will be quite sizable. We are projecting for the next year that at least we will need $4 billion in the humanitarian aid, but more precise numbers will be unveiled in January.
Do you have updates about the Germany announced paying the salaries of health workers and teachers in Afghanistan?
I don't have information about that particular announcement, but I do believe that supporting teachers and supporting doctors is extremely important in all facilities, and these are the frontline workers who are saving the lives of the people, so it's important to support them.
Definitely. Mr. Alakbarov, tell me about your mission operation in Afghanistan under the Taliban rule. How is it going?
From the humanitarian perspective, I'm actually grateful for the assistance which was provided in access. Prior to 15 August, we didn't have access to many remote areas. Right now, we do have access to over 400 districts all around the country, and our teams are able to conduct assessments rather independently and provide the assistance. In that respect, I think we have seen an improvement in access, and we are able to reach some villages and places which we couldn't reach before.
Tell me about those $16 million UNAMA sent to the Afghanistan bank. What was the need? Why did you decide to send this money?
Because there is a shortage of cash in the country. So we provide this directly to the private bank, and this private bank pays our bills on behalf of the UN. This money is not provided to the
private banks of Afghanistan?
It is a private banks in Afghanistan which we work with. This money is not given to current authorities.
It was announced that the money was given to the Central Bank of Afghanistan.
Central Bank of Afghanistan has given us a permission to work with the private bank, and we are working with the private bank which is paying the bills of the United Nations on our behalf.
So the money is not given to the authorities in Kabul?
Money is given to the private bank, and the authorities has given us a permission to work in this modality.
For how long will the situation continue, Mr. Alakbarov, this disaster?
I don't have a crystal ball in my hand to tell you how long it will continue. But I can tell you one thing. We are here determined to see this until we have resolved this situation, and to stay with the people of Afghanistan and to help every single person as much as they can, not to suffer from the humanitarian disaster.
Your focus should be now in the winter situation. Now, what do you plan after the winter season?
After the winter season, the first focus will be, again, Afghanistan's private sector, Afghanistan farmers are the ones who are carrying the economy on their shoulders. So we should be focusing on helping, first of all, the rural areas and the farmers. We should be focusing on helping private businesses to continue to operate and to generate possibilities and livelihoods for the people. Because more we help the people to do best for their own well-being, inshallah, less there will be a need for humanitarian aid. So that is the idea, that we work with them, we work with ordinary citizens, we create also jobs for them. The jobs may be some simple jobs, but important ones. There are water systems which need to be cleaned. There are streets which need to be removed from the debris. There is a need to make sure that the water supply come to the village. Those type of works are very important. Community infrastructure, for instance. Those type of ideas we have, inshallah, once the winter is crossed. Right now the focus is, as you said, to protect the people in winter season.
Before you said, Mr. Alakbarov, that you reached those villages that you couldn't reach in past 20 years. So are you happy, are you optimistic with the plans you have for the farmers of Afghanistan, for the private sector and economy of Afghanistan? Are there still some predicaments and obstacles?
Look, I cannot tell you that I'm optimistic. I cannot tell you that I'm pessimistic. What I'm telling you that I'm resolved. And I'm resolved. This is not an easy situation. This is not an easy situation. There is a lot of goodwill on all sides in trying to resolve these things. And we are working in a very, very difficult environment. And that's what's happening. I can't give empty promises, but what I can give is guarantee of us being present and working on every issue to try to bring a best possible solution to every village.
Yeah, exactly. It's very good. But finally, we have to stand on our feet. Will the recognition of the Taliban solve the problem in order to make you a bit comfortable at least and let the people of Afghanistan do things themselves?
United Nations does not recognize neither the governments nor the countries. It is the member states who do that. And that is the question to the member states. And member states have to make their decisions. As for us, as the United Nations, what we will do, we will facilitate everything for the people of Afghanistan. As United Nations, what we will do, we will deliver the assistance. As United Nations, what we will do, we will stand by the human rights of every Afghan. And that's who we are, and that's what we do. And I do believe if we stand in this in solidarity, if we respect the human rights, if we respect the rights of women and girls, if we respect the rights of children, if we work together to make sure that every single person in the country has access to health services, has access to fair justice systems, then I do believe the situation will improve for everyone.
As my last question, Mr. Alakbarov, tell me about the staff working in the UN, the local staff and the international staff. Are they still present or they have left? How is the capacity of the people working here?
I would say that most of our staff are here. Some have left. You know, these are individual choices that people also make. And this is about their life circumstances. It's about their individual choices. However, most of them are around. And I must admit that both male and female staff members are back to work and they're doing their work and we are very grateful for them. We cannot make a difference with Afghanistan without Afghan national staff who are our pride, and we are extremely happy for the fact that they are here and they're working.
And for the foreign staff, are they still willing to come and they're working?
Again, every single person has her individual circumstances. I do believe that those who would want to come back and would want to work with UN here, they are always welcome and we will always provide them with every facilitation. But again, I cannot talk about the individual choices. Most of my staff are here and they're with me.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the great things you do.
Thank you so much and thank you for being here. Thank you.
درنیدونکو ځانګړې مرکه ممدون راوه تر بیا ښې چارې.
له لیدلو مو مننه.